I have covered a lot of shootings on this channel. It feels like there's been a disproportionate amount of them in 2022, though maybe that's just because I'm paying attention right now. And a lot of them have been on the Tubcast with Lilith, but not this time. This event doesn't need a 2-hour breakdown step by step of what happened. It's surprisingly simple. Around 4:55 p.m. on July 17th, 2022, Jonathan Sepperman, is it Sepierman? I don't know. Walked a mile from his apartment to the mall, carrying 2 semi-automatic rifles, a pistol, and over 100 rounds of ammo. He went into a bathroom in the mall's food court and began his preparations. He emerged an hour later and began firing into the food court. Sepierman managed to kill 3 people, a man standing near the restroom entrance and a couple sitting at a table in the food court. He also injured 2 more, a 22-year-old woman and a 12-year-old girl. But unlike most rampages, where the body count quickly begins to rack up, his shooting only lasted 15 seconds. The reason for that is because these names today, man. Elisha? I mean, it's not a typo, is it? It looks like Elijah, but it's Elisha. Elisjsha. Elisha. Elisha Dicken had a handgun on him. Dicken was legally allowed to carry his handgun. 15 seconds into the shooting, Dicken returned fire, firing 10 bullets and hitting Sepierman with 8 of them. Sepierman attempted to engage, but instead quickly succumbed to his injuries. During and after the firefight, Dicken motioned for bystanders to escape through the mall behind him, and he approached Sepierman to ensure that he was actually dead. Despite the prevalence of cell phones in today's modern world, none of this appears to have been captured on video, or at least the video hasn't been made public. Maybe something will surface from a cell phone or a security camera in the future. Plus, 15 seconds isn't exactly enough time to react to a shooting and consciously choose to record the event rather than, run for your life. But a few random people did fire up Facebook live streams in the minutes after the shooting, in which we can see police sweeping the mall, connecting with citizens, and leading them safely outside. Dicken had no military or police experience. He was simply a responsible firearm owner who had been taught how to shoot by his grandfather. After the shooting, Dicken did the responsible thing yet again. He informed mall security that he had killed the shooter. He waited for police to arrive, and he gave his statement to the cops. Dicken has refused to talk to the media out of respect for both the ongoing investigation and the lives that were lost. This is the quintessential good guy with a gun story that so many Republicans like to lean on when talking about the importance of the Second Amendment. And hey, fair enough. Who knows how much worse it could have gotten? I don't know if mall security is armed in the States. I mean, probably it is the States. But 5 people got shot over the course of 15 seconds. Imagine how many more people it could have been if another 30 seconds had to be spent waiting for mall security to show up. Or worse, multiple minutes waiting for the cops. I'm not shitting on security or the cops here. I know that there's limited resources, and they can't instantly be everywhere at all times. In fact, this is something that the Greenwood police even admitted during their press conference after the shooting, that without a good Samaritan with a gun, this event would have been a lot worse.
The Good Samaritan, I will say, his actions were nothing short of heroic. He engaged the gunman from quite a distance with a handgun, was very proficient in that, very tactically sound, and as he moved to close in on the suspect, he was also motioning for people to exit behind him. He has, to our knowledge, he has no police training and no military background. He has authorized us to release his name. He is requesting you give him time to process and grieve himself before reaching out to him. His name is Elisha Dicken.
Oh, it is Elijah. Okay. My point is, one of the perks of a responsibly armed populace, keyword being responsibly, is that you get people like Dicken, who do the right thing when they find themselves in that situation. As for the shooter, Jonathan Sepperman, his story sounds a lot like the stories of many other shooters I've covered. His family life was troubled. His parents divorced in 2017. He was placed in a foster family, but was kicked out of the foster program after allegations of abuse came to light. He had a record for fighting while attending Greenwood High School, and he was also a juvenile runaway. He had a job working at a warehouse, which he quit back in May, and he was facing eviction from his apartment at the end of the month. By all accounts, this looks like a guy who had a bad start in life, couldn't pull it together as an adult, and when he hit the end of his rope, he decided to go out in a blaze of glory, which was cut short by Dicken's actions. This post was made on 4chan's Bant board at 4:13 p.m., saying, "Name is Jonathan, and today seems like a good day to die," with an Imager link. The Imager link is, of course, dead by now, but its contents were saved. It contained pics of this twink-looking kid wearing a vest with the guns used in the attack, and it seems like this is Jonathan Sepperman. He had torched his laptop in his apartment's oven before leaving for the mall, so it seems like he posted this on 4chan as a goodbye to the world. However, that initial post on 4chan has caught the media's eye because of the pic used as the op image. The image is a historical photo of a low-ranking Nazi officer getting married. The media is taking this as proof positive that this was another white supremacist, white nationalist, neo-Nazi shooting, just like the Buffalo supermarket guy. And you know, it could be, but it also could just be a shitpost by somebody who knows enough about 4chan culture to know that this is exactly how the media would take this sort of thing. Personally, I don't know. I don't think this was a neo-Nazi thing. I think this guy wanted attention and saw the 4chan post as a way to get it. I mean, look at how he's posing in these photos. He thinks he's looking cool, but he actually looks like a virgin with an ill-fitting vest. And all he accomplished was failing at a shooting spree, only to be shot dead by your average Chad. His last moments were probably him realizing that he had, once again, failed at yet another thing in his life. I have no idea what actually caused this event. I have a hunch, though. This part is just entirely my own intuition. I think guys like this show why that old Jordan Petersonian advice of clean your room, not so much his new stuff,
we'll see who cancels who,
is extremely important. People aren't being told anymore that hard work pays off. They're not experiencing that feeling of small accruing gains compounding over time. And, just as importantly, they're also not seeing those small compounding failures over time anymore either. At least not until they get so bad that the problem feels like it's become insurmountable. Like, say, if you've lost your family and lost your job and you're about to lose your apartment. And yeah, that tracks with this guy's life, just look at it. Failed family, failed youth, failed job, failed apartment, failed life. I have a feeling he never learned the power of snowballing little victories into large ones, or what happens when you allow small defeats to become huge by not confronting them. Nobody tells people this stuff anymore. Nobody learns that there's actually a way forward through adversity, and that you don't have to resort to doing this. However, Spearman's story has been entirely overshadowed by the heroism of Dicken's actions, as it should be. I might be analyzing Spearman as a tragic figure, but at the end of the day, he still chose his path. He's still ultimately a monster. Dicken shows why America is correct in valuing a responsibly armed populace. Again, the keyword being responsibly. Consider this. Both Dicken and Spearman legally owned their firearms. Both of them exemplify arguments either for or against regulating or banning guns. It's true that Spearman would have had a harder time committing his shooting if guns were harder to come by. Yes, legally banning guns doesn't make illegal guns vanish into the ether. But come on, do you think a guy like this really had the gumption to go out and get illegal guns if that's what he wanted to do? I don't think so. At the same time, if guns were banned and Spearman did get a hold of illegal guns, Dicken would have had a much harder time stopping him. In fact, Dicken could have been one of his victims. What differentiates these two people isn't gun access, but what each of them chose to do with that access. Spearman chose to be a monster. Dicken chose to defend his community. If there's ever a story that proves true the adage of guns don't kill people, people kill people, it's this one. At the start of the video, I mentioned that I covered a lot of shooters this year, and it goes without saying that there seems to be a lot of them right now. Peyton Gendon, the Buffalo supermarket shooter, who dropped a white nationalist manifesto plagiarized from the Christchurch guy. He had a history of neo-Nazi rhetoric online, and he had withdrawn from his family and his school and his life. Salvador Ramos, the Uvalde school shooter, who crashed his car in an attempt to get to his target. He came from a broken home, and eventually moved in with his grandmother, who he fought with over his failure to graduate. Robert Cremo, the Highland Park shooter, who opened fire into a 4th of July celebration in a Jewish neighborhood in Chicago. He hung out on 4chan posting neo-Nazi stuff, and he had also failed at a school and had a deteriorating family life. And now, this guy. Both the mainstream media, and surely most leftoid YouTubers and streamers who are talking about this event, will pin everything on 4chan, edgy internet speech, and neo-Nazi radicalization. But I think they've got it backwards. I think the Nazi stuff is a symptom of the problem, not the cause. Like, look at these guys. The joke going around right now is that this picture is the Gen Z physiognomy check. And yeah, that's pretty funny, at least if you like dark humor. But I'm reminded more of the bio-Leninism theory that's floating around within neo-reactionary circles right now. Leninism was a specific type of socialism developed by Vladimir Lenin. I spoke a little bit about this in my recent video on the left-hating farmers. One of the early practical stages of the implementation of Leninism was rounding up all of the social rejects who were bitter and angry at the most successful members of their community, give them weapons, give them the authority of the state, and tell them that their lives were in shambles because the parasitic kulak, who just so happened to be their more successful and hardworking neighbor that they were jealous of, was the cause of all of their problems. A core component of Leninism was a revolution by the rejects of society, the people who were bitter at everything and everyone because of their own failures. Bio-Leninism, as theorized by the anorexers, is the idea that the same process is happening in the modern day, but this time without the agitation of a socialist party, and instead happening in a quasi-isolated and decentralized manner. And this time not specifically due to economic failure. Economic failure may be a part of it, but so is failure with women, failure at school, or just general life failure. The anorexers believe this is a biological inevitability, that these genetic inferiors will always constitute a lower class, and if given freedom, will always use it to lash out at they deem more reproductively successful than them. I'm not sure if I agree with that conclusion, but I do think their initial analysis is probably correct. I did a video years and years ago titled Islamist or Incel, where I pointed out that even as these people commit horrible acts and do genuinely become monsters, they are also tragic figures right up until that point of no return. The framework that they rely on to commit these acts, whether it's socialism or fascism or Islamism, that framework isn't the cause of it ultimately. Their own collapsing life is. These frameworks create post hoc justifications for their actions. People generally don't get sucked into an extremist ideology unless their own engagement with society has already deteriorated. In other words, it's revenge against God for the crime of being. I told you that Jordan Peterson had good ideas despite his recent weird turn. Society is set up in such a way that if you engage with its structures properly, you can generally get ahead. It's not guaranteed. Some people are better off forging their own path. Some people don't engage, lie to everybody that they are, and then become bitter due to their own cowardice. Some people do genuinely engage, but due to random chance it just doesn't work out for them, and they too become bitter. And you know what? Surely we've all felt this way at least once in our lives, right? In fact, based on the comments on my liminal video, I know we all have. These people could be us, had we made different choices during our worst moments. There but for the grace of God go we. They are monsters, but I think we would make a fatal mistake to say that their motivations are unknowable, or that their actions are surprising, given the circumstances. The darkest part of your heart that you've buried for years, it knows exactly what's going on here. And you do too, if you have the strength of character to ask it.